was a family of 10 or 15, and it was just this big circus family. They would travel the country to different cities every weekend, and they continued to grow and grow and grow and grow. There are elephants that are part of the circus as well. And some of you may have heard this, but elephants, when they're babies, in some circuses, they tend to chain them to a pole or a fence so that they don't wander off and get lost, so that they can train them to behave and kind of settle down. And so what happens is, after those elephants are chained, after a couple of weeks of trying to escape and they can't, they learn that anytime they have this chain around their leg, they can't go anywhere. So after a few weeks of trying, they just give up. They just stop trying. Well, as they grow older, they're strong enough to break free from these chains, but they still don't, because they learn that they have this chain around their leg, so they can't go anywhere. Well, one day the circus was having its most spectacular show, and a big fire broke loose in the kitchen, and flames went up. People were scattering everywhere. Most people got out. Most people got away. And there were those baby elephants who were chained to this fence. And also these grown elephants who were also chained. And the grown elephants could have broke free easily. But because they learned that anytime they have this chain around their leg, they couldn't go anywhere, the elephants end up burning in the fire. Even though they could have broken free. So consider the possibility that all the limitations that we have now are learned. Do kids know limitations? When you guys were young, did you ever think, oh, when I grow up, I want to be average at best? When I grow up, I just want to be comfortable. What were some of the things that you were thinking as kids? When I grow up, what? I want to be a scientist. I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a singer. I want to be an actor. We had all these big dreams. And then what happens? Mom, dad, these may sound familiar. Teachers might say something like, be realistic. Get your heads out of the clouds. Go to school. Get a job. Pavlov's dogs. You guys are familiar with that experiment. Pavlov brought a group of dogs in, rang a bell, fed them food, rang a bell, fed them food, rang a bell, fed them food over and over and over again, to eventually they rang the bell and they salivate even though there's no food. So when we get conditioned with limitations, we think of, some grand dream, some idea that we want to become, and then we're so conditioned that that's not possible, we don't even begin to take action. Does that make sense? So we get conditioned into limitations. What makes the difference between success and failure? Success and failure. Success and failure. These are just concepts, aren't they? These are just concepts. Failure isn't real, but it's a label, I think you said earlier, a definition that we put on past experiences. All of you who had kids, when they were beginning to learn to walk, how long did you give them to succeed at walking before you said, okay, you're a failure, stop trying?
A week.
How did you help? Or what? Just go back to those experiences if you can.
Encouragement.
Encouragement.
Yeah.
Yeah. What happens when they fall?
You pick it back up.
You pick them back up, right? Do we treat ourselves this way? And what if we were to treat ourselves like we treated our kids trying to walk? Encouraging. Being excited for the effort. Because if Thomas Edison would have stopped after a couple thousand, we'd be still working with candles here. And the Wright brothers, if they would have given up after a few tries, what would have happened? Still
a long walk.
A long walk, a long swim across the ocean, right? And this idea of failure is just a concept. Because what's the fastest way human beings learn? Mistakes. But what happens when we make mistakes as kids? And sometimes when our parents get frustrated, while we're trying to learn something new, what do? They take over for us, right? They do it for us. They tell us, no, not like that, like this. Or that's not good enough, do it like this. Or what are you, stupid? So we start to get conditioned with some of these ideas. And then eventually we get programmed that anytime we try something new, whoa, I better not do that. I might fail. And so consider that the best way that we learn is through mistakes, and we get conditioned out of making mistakes. We won't even take action because there's a pattern in there, a program that says if I take action, I'll fail. If I take action, I'll be stupid. If I take action, people will laugh at me. But it's just an idea. It's just a thought. It's the first tool out of 7 that I'm going to offer you today is modeling. Is find a mentor, find somebody in your field that is achieving the results that you want to achieve and begin to study them. Questions. The mind triggers on questions. What time is it right now, by the way?
10:15.
Some of you caught that, but some of you went right to the answer because your mind triggers on questions. So when you ask a question, your brain automatically goes and starts looking for the answer. So some powerful questions you could ask yourself in the morning are, what am I really looking forward to today? You know, you see how that kind of takes you in a direction? You know, what am I most excited about today? You know, who can I really service today? How can I be at my best today? You know, how can I really kick butt today? You see how those questions take you in a direction versus, what if I don't succeed today? What if I fail today? So utilizing questions, constructing, developing questions that take you forward, that ignite positive, powerful feeling emotions in you so the actions that you take represent those emotions. Number 3 is visualization. Probably one of the most powerful tools I've used. I didn't even know I was using it consciously when I was playing football, but I would always visualize myself catching touchdowns, you know, breaking tackles and all of these things. Cool thing is that the mind doesn't know the difference between something we're vividly imagining and something we are actually experiencing. It doesn't know time. So when you visualize over and over and over again, your mind makes your body think it's actually happening. And then you'll begin to take the actions toward that vision. I'm going to challenge you every night for the next 30 days, at the end of the day, pick 20 things you were really grateful for that happened that day. And you will begin to train your mind to naturally look for the good and the positive in things. Change your truths.
Oh, truths.
Like,
What we believe is creating our experience. And the truth that we have, like it's a bad economy. That's a truth. It's not the truth because there are some people who are thriving right now. It's not a bad economy for them. You know, I had a piano about 4 years ago. I was so excited to learn to play the piano. So I went on to Craigslist, looked for pianos, found this fairly inexpensive piano, brought it into my home, and I was excited to learn. So I started playing the piano. I'm like, yeah, I started playing it, and I noticed that some of the keys were out of tune, and I had to get close to hear some of them. And I thought, well, maybe I should call somebody to come fix it. So I call this piano reconditioning expert. He comes in, and he kind of looks at the piano, he opens it up, and twists and turns and tightens and plays, and I asked him, you know, so what do you think? He's like, I think I can help you out. Give me about an hour or so. So I kind of went about my business, and after an hour, he says, all right, George, come back in. You know, I think we've got it fixed. So I sit down, I play some of those keys, and so I thought, great, what do I owe you? He said, well, you owe me about $50. But I have to tell you this, I'm going to have to come back every week for the next 3 months. And then I'm going to have to come back every other week for the next 3 months. And then I'm going to have to come back every month for the next 6 months. And then every 6 months for as long as you own this piano. And I said, well, why is that? And he said, well, when this piano was brand new, it was perfect, harmonious, vibrant. But as it gets played over and over and over again, more and more and more, it gets conditioned out of its natural state. So in order for us to keep it tuned, we have to continuously be on top of it, continuously tune it, continuously tune it back and condition it back to its natural state. And in that moment I thought, whoa, what an amazing metaphor for human beings. In that we come into the world vibrant, harmonious, ready to dream big, right? Ready to live an amazing life. And through life, we get conditioned out of those natural, unlimited thoughts that we're born with. We get conditioned out of that space. And so, consider the possibility that part of life is reconditioning ourselves back to our natural state so that we can live vibrantly, free of fear, courageously, and achieve some of the things that we've always wanted to achieve.